Okay, age before beauty. Um, Eric, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Bob?
I'm good. Hey, the NCAA, the first net ranking came out today, and I know it's early and everything, but you guys are 25, quite a bit lower than the AP. But I think that, weird as it sounds, that Louisville game is hurting your strength of schedule because they're like 361 because they're 0-8. But just wonder what your thought is on the initial net ranking and being 25.
Yeah, I think that the net, changes drastically once we get into SEC play because of, the the seasons that so many SEC schools are having. So I think our net, we have the potential to rise in that, certainly depending on our play. But I do think this time last year that our net is higher, than what it was last year at this time. So just got to, how do we beat UNCG on tomorrow night?
Is it weird, because given Louisville's obviously historical strength as a program, is it just weird to think how low they are and how that's basically hurting your strength of schedule? And you obviously didn't schedule them; you're matched up with them, but you think Louisville would help your schedule, not drag it down like an anchor.
Yeah, no, and I think that Coach Payne will figure out a way to continue to improve that team. But certainly, in the Maui Classic, going into that, and looking at the field, you certainly think that there's going to be three real quality opponents. And like I said, I do think that Louisville, it's always hard on a first year coach in any sport. I mean, it's really difficult to try to put schemes in offensively, defensively, and then your culture as well.
And then the AP poll, where all the smart guys are. I think there's 6 SEC teams ranked. Um, just what do you think about that? And Mississippi State popped in there. They're 8-0. They're off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, Mississippi State's done a great job. Missouri's played great basketball. There's a lot of programs right now that have had really, really good non-conference success in the SEC, and obviously Tennessee and Kentucky and Auburn and Alabama. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are really playing good basketball, and it's, SEC, just like the last couple of years, is really challenging every night. But we have a big week ahead of us, and need to continue to play as well as we possibly can, throughout the rest of the non-conference.
Okay, I've got a couple more, but I'll turn back to Mike if he can come back around if time allows. Thanks.
Scotty?
Yeah, Eric, I had some questions for you about Ricky. He leads you guys pretty comfortably in scores at the rim. I'm just curious what you've thought of maybe the rate that he's finished to this point. I mean, I think we've seen him finish pretty impressively with, his left and his right hand too.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job of attacking both in a half court and in transition. And we knew that he was a excellent athlete, has the ability to make 3-point shots. I think he's further ahead maybe than what we thought at this juncture of the season of being really good in ball screens and handling in pick and rolls. And, a couple of the games in Maui, one of them he was utilized as a ball handler in pick and roll. Another game we tried to ISO him on the elbow. But he's had a phenomenal start to the season without a question, Scotty.
And secondly, just kind of, he's had a couple of big dunks, it seems like, every game, just like powerful, aggressive type dunks. Do you guys see that behind the scenes? And kind of, have you coached a player with maybe a similar mindset when it comes to maybe being the aggressor at the rim at the guard spot or the wing spot?
Yeah, I thought Caleb Martin was always really aggressive, attacking the rim, and had some big time dunks in the flow. The way that we do practice, Scotty, we just don't go live very much. I mean, we have a lot of drills, a lot of stationary breakdown, a lot of non-contact once we get into November and December and January. So we don't see a lot of that in practice. I mean, after practice, guys will, have dunk offs and dunk contests and things like that. But in live action, a lot of times what we're seeing in games is sometimes the first time. And certainly I think when you play in a game, you got a little bit more juice to attacking the rim and so forth than you would in practice.
Curtis.
Hey, Coach, just curious what you've seen that stood out to you on UNC Greensboro. It looks like an older team, a ton of juniors and seniors.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, their backcourt, number one, they create a lot of steals. They play very aggressive, defense. They'll reach and gamble and try to create some offense through their defense. And, there are four guys up front, number 4, number 22, 33, and 2. All those guys are, offensive rebounders, rim runners. And then at the 1, 2, and 3, they have guys that can shoot the basketball, 24, and they have 2 left-handers in the backcourt, number 0. And then, Atwell, number 12, can shoot it, and their best player, Kennedy, or I should say their best offensive player, Kennedy, has been out the last couple games. And certainly, us taking care of the basketball will be extremely important against UNCG.
And then just curious, with all these new faces that you have, how has this group done so far with just absorbing information, whether it be film or your scouting reports, and then carrying that over on game day?
Yeah, we were, not concerned, but obviously with 11 new players and only 2 guys really kind of knowing what our scouts look like, how much were we going to be able to, absorb? How much were we going to be able to take from the practice court to the game situation? And then you add in the fact that there's 6 freshmen out of those 11. Certainly, we didn't know where we're going to have to scale back some of the ways that we've done preparation in the past, but actually we're further ahead maybe than where we've been in the past, even though we have so many new guys. But I do think we have a lot of guys that have really good understanding of schemes on both offense and defense. And I do think we have a group that understands the importance of knowing your opponents, both their sets, their defensive tendencies as well, and maybe most importantly, the individual tendencies of guys that they would have to guard or match up against.
Christina.
Coach, the other night you brought in Jalen Graham to be, you said, a fresh body. Is that kind of the role that you see for him, or how do you want to use him going forward?
Yeah, I think, every game just takes on a kind of an identity. And, certainly if we need interior passing, if we need down low scoring, if we feel there's a matchup, Jalen is a really good player, and he's proven that at the Power 5 level at Arizona State as an all Pac-12 player. I thought he had a great week of practice last week, and but certainly the opportunities that he's been given offensively, he's done a really, really good job. And then, I thought defensively, in his minutes, he led us in taking charges, and I thought he did a really good job defensively last game as well.
And then what do you remember about recruiting him, and what made you want to go after him, and maybe what drew him to you?
Well, we had actually recruited him, when he was in high school, recruited him pretty hard. I don't know if he remembers, but we had an in-home visit, and, so in high school, I thought, he was a great shot blocker in high school, a great runner of the floor, had the soft touch that we see now. I think he's always had good footwork, but his footwork in the post right now is he's really hard to guard in a one-on-one situation, because he's got a great spin move, and he does a good job of feeling the defense and going the opposite way of where a defender might be trying to influence him.
Hutch.
Yeah, Coach, Nick told us after the game that his knee was a little bit sore, that he was going to get some rehab. I'm curious how you've seen him respond and how he looks after getting his first real action the other night.
Yeah, today, today's first time we're getting back on the floor and doing some live stuff, and not live, but defending what we will see. But I think he's fine. I haven't gotten any text or anything of anything other than just what was anticipated. Because we did play him over that 20-minute mark, and he as all players, love to play minutes and get out there. So, but I thought he did a great job. In reality, that was kind of his first real true game. The first game was, you know, just to kind of get him back in the flow.
And also the other night, you said this is probably the deepest team you've had just from a numbers standpoint. Do you see yourself finding a way to play 10 guys in a game, or could it be just 7 guys and those 7 guys change from game to game?
You know, I'm not really sure, Hutch. You know, I mean, if you look at in the past, you know, I brought it up before, like Trey Wade, you know, at this time last year, he did not have the same role that he did, you know, against Gonzaga. So, you know, for us, I think keep an open mind, keep evaluating players, evaluate how they're doing in practice, evaluate them when they get in the game. But we're not, for me to be able to project the future, I have no idea what each game calls upon or what matchups, you know, we need to try to attack, or what positional matchups there are. Are we going small? Are we going big? But I will say that we do have a lot of flexibility, whichever way we go.
Bob, final question?
Yeah, Eric, Ricky got SEC Player of the Week. I know you talked to him about him a little bit, but just wonder what you think about that and just sort of maybe his season to date for you.
Ricky's played great. I'm glad that, you know, that he got the individual honor, because we all know how many talented players are in this conference. He's had a great start to the year. I mean, we all see what he's doing defensively. He's been a great teammate. We've seen him in a scoring role. We've seen him in a facilitator role. Last game, in the second half, we switched him on to number 10, Amari Moore, because we felt like Ricky's athleticism and length maybe, you know, would be a different look than what he saw in the first half. So he's done a great job. I think he can be a great rebounder for us as well, especially defensively. And you know, he's done a great job setting the tone for us on especially at the offensive end. I think he can continue to set the tone defensively as well.
Hey, you mind if I squeeze in one more about Greensboro? Kennedy, I checked. He's supposed to be back. He's their leading scorer. What have you seen from him, and what kind of boost does that give them having him back?
Yeah, he can really score the basketball. He can shoot it from 3. He's good in transition. He's a good rebounder for his size. Obviously, you know, he's their best offensive player numbers wise. And so he does change the complexion of the game for them for sure, especially from an offensive standpoint.
Sorry,
Hey,
Andrew, did you have one real quick?
Quick. Yeah, I did.
Good.
Yeah, Coach, in the preseason, you talked about how, you know, when you guys would go live in practice, one group would kind of pull away from the other. And, you know, in the Texas game exhibition, we saw the bad end of that, but now you're starting to see that spurt ability benefit you guys against some of these other opponents. Just how encouraging is it to see, especially when you play somewhere like Bud Walton, where your team can kind of just overwhelm teams in a stretch of time?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, especially at home right now, early in the season, is just how do we wear people down? But certainly we can play in spurts. The way that we've jumped in our 3-point percentage, been a pretty drastic jump over the last, couple games, and our numbers across the nation continue to improve on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I mean, I think this team is playing with more comfort, understanding each other, and I think we're better, now than we were in that exhibition game. And I think we just need to continue to grow.